all things guru today. And I'd love to say I planned this live, but I logged into LinkedIn this morning and I saw a crap ton of basically bullshit. And I thought, I'm going to get this off my chest, because if I don't tell you this, it's going to gnaw at me. So I'm going to tell you the behind the scenes of why LinkedIn Growth Guru stuff does not work. And if you're following gurus, you have to acid test what they're doing, because a lot of it is junk advice for real businesses. And if you don't know what I mean by a real business, I mean that actually has proper customers and is not just selling courses where you have to actually persuade people to buy, not use, jealousy and the envy to get people to buy. So we're going to talk about it. I'm going to share what I think. This is not directed at any particular person. There are lots of people on LinkedIn I like with high following and high engagement, but there is this general trend in the kind of growth guru industry that is poisonous, totally poisonous to real businesses. It will harm them. And I thought, sod it, I'm going to tell everybody. And they can think, God knows what, I really do not care, but I'm telling you. So I'm going to break down what I see, what I've observed. I've been invited into a lot of these groups, and I can't get my lights to actually stay doing one thing, so we'll just put them on the pink. I want to break down some of the things and how it works. So first off, most of your gurus have never done anything else. So they've cracked engagement on LinkedIn or on Instagram or any of these channels. They've never done anything else. If you look at their career history, it's like they just popped up in 2022, or actually they've had a string of jobs they've never held down for more than a year. That is the pattern, right? So they just miraculously appear from nowhere, or actually they've never held down a job for more than a year. And then they come out spouting sales advice, business advice, growth tips for LinkedIn. Now, if you're a business owner, you're a salesperson, you're a marketer, a lot of this advice is packaged in a way that feels really great. And the engagement psychologically convinces you this must be good advice because everybody's loving it. So let's just dispel this first big myth. Number one thing that you have to understand on social media is at least half of all engagement is artificial. So fake or done for the purposes of gaining. So what do I mean by that? So there's obviously bots, and I'm not saying everybody uses bots, but there is also this game that is played by many influencers, and you can spot it. You go on their LinkedIn, where they're all engaging with each other. They're not engaging because of the merits of the content. They are all in a kind of unofficial agreement to support each other if you support them. And what this does is it basically creates an elevation in their content so that their content is more visible than the average user. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of gurus in these little groups, some of them formal, like literally planned, and some of them just informal. And I've been invited into one by one of the biggest. He asked for my WhatsApp. I thought we were going to build a relationship. And lo and behold, then the hey, you support my post, I support yours. And then I've sent a message to the person to just chat with them. No response. There's no interest in real relationship. It's a game. They're all playing together. I got invited by another person who said, let's chat. And actually it was them just pinging their posts to me every single day. Yeah. And I'm not into the naming and shaming because I think that's, crass and poor taste. But if you look at these posts and go, why is my post not performing? And then you start to feel like shit because of it. Guess what? That's why. They have 100, 200 people all in a little Ponzi scheme supporting each other. And so you've got that. That then does brute force the algorithm to elevate their posts. If you strip away that little engagement cartel, if you strip that away, then you would actually see how good the content really is. And I had this discussion with somebody, and I said, if you stripped all of that away, I wonder what normal engagement looks like. And this is a really interesting question. Like, if everybody stops doing that kind of merry-go-round of engaging to get engagement, in whether it's organized or kind of just you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. If you strip out all of that, what does normal engagement look like? And so we could have a scenario where, thousands of people, say 10,000 people all involved in this merry-go-round, are actually warping the entire ecosystem of LinkedIn's perception of what normal engagement is. And so you're looking at your engagement going, there's something wrong with it, when actually there's something wrong with theirs. And so this is a well-known fact. Many of you will know about it. I've played the game and the numbers go up, but you're stuck playing the game. Like, I've played it. I can get every post flying, right? The issue is you have to keep playing the game. And it gets demoralizing when you realize your content is not as valuable unless you help other people. So if the content won't go anywhere on its own, I have to do extra work to get it there. So this is the first thing that I want to share. Like, if you're sat there going, what's wrong with my content? There's probably nothing wrong with it. You've just got a very warped perception of what normal looks like because there's thousands and thousands of these people doing merry-go-rounds. So that's the first one I wanted to say. First off, don't fall into this growth thing, because what they will do is they will tell you growth, right? And this leads me to the next thing. Most of these people are only selling to be like them. They've never, ever sold a real service, a real product to an actual customer. They are selling courses. Then they've never had to implement this stuff with a client where it's messy, where it's not as clear cut as their 3 points. And so what they're doing is they're selling something that if you want to be them, you can take their model, copy it, and get exactly the same result as them. But if you're trying to take their model and sell something else, you will fall into very sticky, difficult, messy places. Posts say, if I go onto LinkedIn and say, if you follow my secret strategy to grow and you'll get loads of leads, people will buy what I've got to offer to get the leads. It only works if you're selling the very thing that you're doing. And so they're selling growth, and the implication is you will get clients and leads from growing. Yet there are countless stories of people across LinkedIn who have grown and quit and got jobs. Yeah. Now that's not convenient to say. Yeah, the biggest problem people have on LinkedIn is a conversion problem. And that actually isn't about growth. That growth is a way to try and brute force a bad conversion. If you need 100,000 followers to actually get 1 or 2 sales predictably, you have a massive conversion problem. So the big problem on LinkedIn is not a growth problem. It's not an engagement problem. It's a conversion problem. That's why many of your LinkedIn gurus are running Facebook ads. You heard me right. Why are most of your LinkedIn gurus running Facebook ads to promote their courses on LinkedIn? Why are they running it? And to people, the logical argument is scale. The logical argument is scale. If I scale this up, I can scale my business further. If you've got 1 million followers and you can't put 50 people into your course, that tells me you have a conversion problem. So if you look at many of these influencers, they have high engagement. Why are they solopreneurs? They have high engagement. Why are they running Facebook ads? Because with 1 million followers or 200,000 followers, they should be able to get 50 people's bums on seats. Yeah. Another good tell for this, by the way, it's really fascinating. There's a reason why many of these gurus don't do LinkedIn Lives and they won't do newsletters. They won't do all of these things because their engagement levels will trip them up. I know one guru, every post she does, 1,000+ likes. Yeah. Newsletter is half the size of mine. She's got 3 times the followers of me. What's going on there? LinkedIn Lives, many of them won't do LinkedIn Lives because they don't want the show-up rate to be exposed. So there's a conversion problem that many of these gurus have. And so they talk about LinkedIn growth because they can prove that, they can measure that. And unfortunately, many people fall into the trap of thinking more numbers equals more sales. And it's preached by many people, but it doesn't actually work in the real economy. So many of the people that you're looking at are operating in a different economy where they're selling to people something that is different from what we're selling. You know, I'm giving people sales skills. Now, sales skills aren't popular, right? Messaging and those kind of things aren't popular because everybody wants this magical, if I grow, everything will come to me. There is an incentive in your LinkedIn gurus convincing you that that's true because you need their course to do it. But the reality is, and I'll just be honest, this is on you now. So you watching me, I'm telling you something that your problem is now. I've done this for a long, long time. I see the same patterns coming up over and over and over again. The reality is, people on LinkedIn who are not getting results, their message is poor. Yeah, their message is poor and their process doesn't exist, or their process is literally just a content schedule. And so why would you go through process and figuring your message out and your process out when a guru can say, I've got this secret key, buy my course and you'll go viral and you'll have loads of followers every day and you'll get growth. And mentally you associate growth with money. And so you, even though they don't say it, it kind of becomes implied that you will make money by having growth. When the reality is a lot of people don't make money by having growth. The majority don't make money by having growth. So that's the other the other thing to consider. Your problem, if you're not getting results on LinkedIn, is not growth. It's a message and process problem that's slowing your conversion. And as long as you keep avoiding that, you will be susceptible to these wild promises of growth and virality and all that stuff that will hook you in. You'll buy their thing. You'll probably never even finish the course because actually the bigger issue is you're looking for shortcuts to actual result. Sorry, I'm being brutal on a Sunday morning. Now, the other thing to remember is they'll tell you to do things, many of these gurus, that aren't physically possible. Now, I had this out with somebody on TikTok the other day. We've actually become friends as a result of it. Like Gary Vee, I like Gary Vee, got no issue with Gary Vee, but last weekend, he put out a post telling people that if you want to grow on social media, you need to put out between 100 and 500 videos per week. 100 to 500 videos per week. Who is Gary Vee talking to there? Who is he giving this advice to? Like, if that's the strategy to grow, then who can actually follow that advice? Now, this guy, Boris, nice guy, and he's had a go. And to be fair to him, he's done the 100. He's done 100 videos in the last week, right? But can Boris do those 100 videos every week? And that's the bare minimum, 100 to 500. So there's a lot of advice going out there that doesn't work in the real world. If you're a solopreneur, and by the way, the majority of businesses, something like 90% of businesses, are solopreneurs. Even a marketing department of a company would struggle to put 100 to 500 videos out per week. And why would they struggle? They'd struggle because they wouldn't have the resources, the budget, the time, the creativity, all that stuff they would struggle to do. So it's something that Gary Vee can do. It's something that a full-time content creator can do because they got nothing else to do. The content is the product. Yeah. So if you're thinking like that, the content is the product, then you can do as much as you like because that's all you have to do. But if the content is just the marketing for the product and you've got client delivery, accounting, admin, sales, all that stuff to do, you'll never be able to do it. I saw an infographic the other day today, and it was about a guru saying, this is my social selling process. And it had 8 tools on there, 8 subscriptions on there, and all of this stuff. And I'm like, if you're the average business owner, like you look at that and go, I'm going to try and do that. You probably don't have the technology skills to do it. You probably don't have the bandwidth to do what they're doing. And actually, when you dig into what he was suggesting, the majority of what he was suggesting was posting content. That's not social selling. Social selling's easier than being a content creator. It's way easier. So they're promoting advice that really doesn't work for the average real world person. And so what happens is people try and do that, maybe foolishly. Maybe we should all be smarter and go, let's break this down. But people start trying to do this and go, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? And then they go, well, maybe I'm not cut out for business. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. And it creates a whole host of other problems of self-doubt, when in reality, what you're trying to do is copy a business model that is not yours. And I'm going to say it, I'm ageist. Many of the people pushing this stuff out are young, inexperienced, have never ran a real business, and they're telling business owners how to run their business. And I know this might sound like grumpy old man territory. First of all, I reject the old man territory. Maybe grumpy, but not old man, right? But it just does not work in real life, right? And you have to look at this. As much as you look at it and go, I wish I could be able to do that, and as much as it feels good to go, I should be doing that, especially when what you're doing right now isn't working, it feels like that's the missing piece of the puzzle. It isn't the missing piece of the puzzle. It's an impossible puzzle you will never solve. So they're promoting do this, do this, do this. Half the time, they're not even doing that themselves. Let's be honest. They're not doing it themselves. Now, the other thing to also remember on this point is when they're talking about tools, very often they're making money from the tools. So the vast majority of the content creators, and I'm calling them content creators, I'm not they're not social selling experts, most of them. They're content creators talking about social selling. They're content creators talking about LinkedIn. They're not actually experts in social selling. Many of these people who are promoting this stuff that you feel like, oh, wow, that's so cool, I should do that. And then you realize it's impossible to do. They actually make their money not from selling their courses and their expertise and going into companies and helping companies actually do this stuff. They don't make their money that way. They actually make the money from the cut of promoting the tool. So the vast majority, about 40% of all of content creators' revenue is actually made from promoting a tool in their content that positions it as their missing link. People buy it and they make a cut. Or a company pays them $5,000 to promote that tool. So you have to remember that many times, especially on LinkedIn, people are promoting things. They're not declaring they're promoting things, and they're being paid to sell you something that isn't actually something they use day to day. So just factor this in, that a lot of their money, So when they're saying last month I made 30 grand from just posting content on LinkedIn, as business owners, we think, oh, they must have got leads and clients. No. Somebody clicked a link and paid $4.99 for a subscription or $4.99 for a course. They are an e-commerce business. Yeah, they're in e-commerce. They're a shop. Yeah. For many people, they're selling services. The majority of people in, Europe, UK, US are selling services. It's a different model. And so it's our own fault. We should be grown-ups, really. We shouldn't be emotionally suckered into stuff. But we have to also bear in mind they're selling a bit different business model. And so they make most of their money from e-commerce, basically putting a post out, people clicking and buying. They don't actually make their money from actually servicing clients. And so if you try to bolt their model on, it comes unstuck. And that's where the conversion problem is. Now, there's one more thing that I also want to point out here. Many of these content creators are actually that talk about LinkedIn growth or social selling. If you look at their audience, and I don't know how I'm going to say this without it coming across wrong, but I'll just say it anyway. If you look at most of their audience, they're actually appealing to people in developing countries. Yeah, most of their audience is not their ideal customer. The majority of it is not their ideal customer. And their logic is that they'll actually, if I go broad, if I have wide appeal, I will get more clicks and more purchases, e-commerce. That's the logic. And so many of them will grow, and you will see people from India and Pakistan, and there's nothing wrong with that. But actually, their whole strategy is, I am going to capture an audience that cannot pay for me so that hopefully it will increase the people who will pay for me. And you'll see it everywhere. What happens is it attracts wannabes as well. So you've got people who cannot buy who want to be them. Yeah. So in developing countries, then you get people who are on the journey in the countries that can buy, the economics of it. So you might have a LinkedIn ghostwriter in India engaging with a LinkedIn guru in America. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they deliberately go after what we'd call mini-me's, people who are like them, but earlier in the journey in developing countries. So they engage, and basically the people in India and all these other countries will copy their model. So they'll DIY it and copy it. That then will get them attention of people, say, in the UK, Europe, US, who want to do exactly the same thing. So another mini-me. So maybe it's a solopreneur, and this is how it works. A solopreneur coach, say, and they're struggling to sell their thing, and then they start studying some of these and realize, oh, if I pivoted and did what they do, I'll grow faster. So they basically convert people from real businesses into content creation businesses, and they become mini-me's, and they buy all the courses and go into the mentorships and all that kind of stuff of these content creators. And so you have this scenario where basically all they're doing is selling Be Like Me. And they're selling Be Like Me to people who can never afford it, and they're going to DIY it, and that's how they get their mass traction. And they're selling Be Like Me to people who've been struggling to actually launch a real business, and they jump ship and do exactly the same thing. Now, why is all this a problem? Why is all this a problem? It's a problem if you don't realize what really is holding you back from getting leads and clients. Because what you'll do is externalize the problem. So we're going into therapy now a little bit, right? When human beings have a problem, conversion, right? You can't convert. You're not getting leads. We tend to externalize the problem. We blame something outside of us. So the algorithm's against me. LinkedIn doesn't work. My audience aren't there. Maybe my offer's no good. Maybe people don't need my offer. So we externalize the problem. And that, if we don't realize we're doing this, we will just keep doing it. So we'll just keep finding a reason outside, or we'll look for something outside to solve the problem. Another course, another thing. The reality is, and I've done this for a long, long time. So this is not somebody who's gone, right, I'm in it here for 2 years. I've been doing this for 15 years. So I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of this stuff. The reality is, people, it comes down to a couple of things. What problem are you solving? I know you're going to go, well, bullshit, generalized stuff I've heard a million times before. Well, hang on a minute. If you've heard this a million times before and you're still not being successful at getting clients other than through referrals, word of mouth, and intros, you've not really absorbed this information. What problem are you solving? Who are you solving it for? And what's the message that triggers action? And then the fourth one is, what's your process to get somebody from complete stranger to one client? And I know that's basic stuff that you've probably dismissed. You've probably thought, yeah, that's nice, Dean. I can tell you now, you could change industries. You could change you could change everything about your business by another course. And if you don't nail those 4 things, you will still be at ground zero. Yeah. You can keep looking for courses and templates, but it's those 4 things. What's the problem you're solving? Right? Can you identify an actual problem people are suffering with? Who's suffering with it, and can you get access to them? What's the message that triggers action? I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And then what's your process to go from unknown to client? If you don't nail those 4, you will be here in the same place. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll have gone and got a job. Yeah. And these 4, by the way, are true for marketing leaders, salespeople, business owners. If you're going to market to get clients, you got to know those 4 things. And if you do not know those 4 things, everything's luck. Everything is luck. I'll send out 100 pitches a day and hopefully I'll get a bite. Something will land. Yeah. Spray and pray, throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks. You got to nail those 4. And I want to come back to that one there, their message, number 3. If you look at your posts and they're not doing very well, that may, as we've already said, that may not mean that they're actually not doing very well. You must just have a warped perception maybe of what real engagement looks like. If you have even 50 of the right people, 10 of the right people paying attention to your content, 10 of the right people, and they are not resonating with it, it's pointless. Like, just think about this for a moment. The whole concept of posting is so that you get awareness with the right people and the right people see you for them. How many of the right people do you need to see your content for you to get a lead? 200? 100? Very often the problem of not getting leads comes down to a message issue. You're saying things, or the way you're saying it doesn't land. Yeah. If you think about content, I'm not saying you'll go viral with this because many of us operate in markets that wouldn't support a viral post. If you think about it, if you're in a community of engineers and you're talking about engineering stuff, right? There's not enough people to make that go viral. So actually talking about things that resonate with your target market, about their problems and challenges, rarely will go viral. If you talk about toxic workplaces and corporations not paying tax, everybody's got an opinion on that. But actually, the people you need to have an opinion on something actually is incredibly small. And so if you're not resonating, like, don't think, virality will fix it. You need to think about, why did this post not land with the target market? Because you need one lead for a post to be successful, one client. So think about the message piece here. If your message is not landing, it's the message, it's not the algorithm. If your posts are not generating leads, you're not resonating with your target market. I know this is basic stuff that I'm saying here, but when you break it down and go, well, hang on a minute. If I got 500 impressions on my post and I didn't get any traction from it, it's either hitting the wrong people or I've got the message wrong. It's hitting the wrong people or I got the message wrong. So if 500 people didn't work, trying to scale that up doesn't work. We think that this would work and it doesn't. So often when I'm sat working with somebody, whether it be a sales team, a marketing team, or a business owner, they're eager to dive into, so how will we use this tool? How will we do the LinkedIn newsletter? I'm like, it's all going to flop if you don't know the message that will make your audience move, make your audience take action. So why did I share this morning? In all total honesty, it was because, number one, it annoyed me seeing more shitty advice being pumped out, knowing full well some of my network were engaging with. I thought, you stupid people. Not because, like, I know that some of their situations, I know some of them, like, their business is really tough and they're looking to these people to give them advice and they're consuming content that's not going to help them. It's distracting them from what really matters. At the end of the day, what you need next week is not more content, it's more conversations. And I say conversations, not pitches. I say more conversations. And if you map out and go, what's my activity that will get me more conversations? If you had a conversation a day, you would get a flow of leads, flow of clients, and guess what? All of this takes care of itself. Your pipeline, your flow of leads, it all does it. But what we do is we go, well, if I just post more, maybe I'll get leads, and then maybe I'll get pipeline, and then maybe I'll get clients. It's all rested on whether you can get the content to work. When actually you could just go, what's a really simple, straightforward way I can get conversations sustainably? And I want to really emphasize, I am not saying you have to pitch people. In fact, I'm anti-pitch. But often we associate words with other words. And so conversation so often becomes interchangeable with pitching. Doesn't have to be. Doesn't even have to be outbound conversations, right? There's ways to generate conversations. But as long as you think the only way is to grow and get more engagement, and these guys are perpetuating that. If you look, the common thread is, the common message through all of their stuff is, if you just had more engagement, if you just had more followers, you'd make more money. That's why you hang on their posts, because that's what they're selling, and that's what will convince you, and that's what you're looking for. Meanwhile, you're missing all the conversations. Right, I'm going to shut up because I've gone on for a little while here. But please, please, please focus on your message, your process, because everything comes out of conversations. Everything comes out of conversations.